Turns out, I had contact with the MVD 2 or 3 times during the week. First, they called and said, "Oh, we can't make it, we want to come at the June meeting." And I said, "Well, if you're going to do this and you need some money, and you're going to do it June 14th, we don't have much time to react and get it done before the end of the fiscal year." "Oh, okay, we'll come." And then they changed their minds again around 4:30 yesterday and said, "No, I guess we're not going to come, but we sent you this stuff," which is the spreadsheet.
Oh, okay.
It's there, which is all we really needed in the first place.
Yep.
So, we'll get to that as we get further down the agenda. But I guess the first item is minutes of March 22nd, since we didn't have our April meeting.
I move we accept the minutes of March 22nd.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
3-0-0. Oh. I apologize. Here's a couple of agendas.
Oh,
I already have one.
You got one?
Yep.
So we have,
looks like election results are the second item.
yeah, the election results were that I was reelected.
Wow.
And,
This is
By a narrow margin.
a surprise.
a little bit.
I voted for you.
Thank you.
Just one.
I voted for you.
The other part of the elections was capital reserve fund contributions, if you will. We had some discussion a couple of weeks ago about, or a month and a half now, about capital reserve funds for the town, and there was one for the school district and 2 for the MVD. Those all passed.
Oh, good.
So, nothing exciting there, but we do have a couple of checks here from the MVD, one for system development, I think 50,000-ish, and the other one is $100,000 to start a new legal expenses or litigation expense fund. So we'll set that up. I don't think we need any
100,000.
particular motion. And then the next thing says MVD cash flow, and that's gee. And I think the only thing that is of immediate significance, I'll pass this along to Cambridge Trust, they'll be here next month anyway,
Okay.
is to have a motion to encumber the funds necessary for the rest of this year, which is roughly 99,000 for the backhoe, and I think 75,000 for a study. And that'll at least put us on record as setting that money aside for those things. When we get the actual invoices, we'll have it available, and we'll have authorization to pay it without further delay.
What about these other items that are targeted for July, August 2019, 267,000? Treatment for all the
That's,
285.5 thousand.
well, the main line extension's being done right now. I mean, if you come in from the north, you can see it.
Do we have the money put aside for that?
Yeah, in the capital reserve funds, equipment and facilities, we have $3,769,000 and some change. And in the system development, which isn't impacted at this point, 550,000 plus the additions that we're depositing today or this week. So I think they've looked at that. We can certainly
We can cover all those based on.
cover
those
all of
numbers.
those things. And they're having a public hearing Monday about establishing a rate increase to be effective July 1st. That won't be enough money coming in to cover these things, but that's what capital reserve funds are for. And in my mind, they have $2 million in, what's the word I want, surplus, undesignated surplus.
2 million.
Yeah, yeah, way over. The DRA says you need 8 to 10%. Am I correct, Tom, on that?
I believe that's
8
theirs.
to 10% of your
Yes.
annual budget, which would be about 400,000. And they've got 2 million. So in my mind, they could spend that down for the 350,000 that they need for the first year of the 2 warrant articles that passed, or bond articles that passed. So they're in good shape that way. I have other thoughts on that, but that's not really our concern. We're just looking at the capital reserve funds. So I think if you add those things up, Bill, we're in good shape. And we can, as I say, I'll forward this to the bank, and they will
Yep.
be prepared if you want to phrase it that way. So I think if we can have a motion just to encumber the funds for the study and the
So moved.
backhoe.
Seconded.
Any further questions or discussions?
I mean, it looks like everything's covered on this sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were already expecting that.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? I think we're in good shape. Similar discussion with the Shed Harris Fund. Chief Courier appeared before the town council last month, discussing the fate, if you will, or repairs, or whatever they're gonna do with the Reed's Ferry Fire Station. And I think the figure he had was $16,000 to do some fix-up and replace some windows and that type of stuff. But apparently, since that time, they're working on, I talked to him last week, doing some other major rehab. And that might, I don't want to put out a number because he didn't have one, but it would be substantially more than $16,000, shall we say. But he and Paul, and I don't know if you're involved in this, Tom,
A little bit.
are working on some stuff, getting some bids or estimates. And so they may come back to us next month looking for something there. But we don't have a specific request at this time, so.
So the 16,000 is on hold.
Right.
They're not gonna do the 16,000 and then come in with the proposal to do something substantially more.
I can't say that.
Trying to think what you could do to that. There used to be somebody who stayed overnight in that north station, but then they pulled everybody back when they redid the main station.
Well, and, was it Gary Reed? I can't remember, I think. Anyway, they had somebody who worked there full-time.
Right.
doing repairs and machine shop type stuff and whatnot. But a lot of those repairs were taken over by Department of Public Works. And there was a discomfort level with having one guy operating machinery and doing other things, nobody else around.
Right.
It wasn't the high point of the OSHA list. So moving that operation over to the DPW was the solution. And
Good solution.
so the question is how they want to continue to use that station, and whether it's going to be manned or it's going to be a warehouse or something in between.
Do you have any insight on the major repair type items that they're talking about?
Not really.
One of the things that was discussed at the town council meeting, I think, was there's a bathroom there. You need bathroom facilities, and it really needs to be replaced.
Be interesting to get a tour of that. I've never been inside.
It's in very rough shape.
Was-
It's been deteriorating for a while now.
So anyway, that's up in the air, so we don't really need to take any action on it today, but it was put on the agenda in anticipation of or follow on to that town council presentation. And then they're going beyond that to do other considerations, so we don't have anything from them. So I'm gonna move on to the stuff for the next meeting.
Okay.
Cambridge Trust. Do we have any requests for any particular types of information?
I think the way they normally present our funds, our current returns, you know, the booklet they put together normally, Eric and Judy? No, Eric and Karen.
Well, it changes, but yeah. You just want the same presentation they usually give?
I
an update.
think that that's perfect.
Okay.
It lets us know where we are and what we need to do.
Anything you're particularly interested in, Bill?
I mean, that presentation's fine.
Okay. One of the questions I had was, we have scholarship funds that are managed in a package with the capital reserve funds. And we get let's call it a bonus on the management fee, because they're all lumped into together there. The management fee on all the other funds is 70 basis points. Still a reasonable fee. But I think that portfolio is a little bit more aggressive. And so I was gonna ask them for a look-see and see if the
Equities?
common fund return is sufficient, that we should be managing the scholarship funds in that portfolio instead of on its own. The scholarships are less than $200,000, all three of them. And that's not a lot of money to diversify all over the place. I think they've done a good job, but it may be that they can do a better job with more flexibility and a bigger portfolio. So I wanted to ask about that. If anybody has any thoughts in that direction, we can, I'll get to them. If not, we won't bother.
Well, any advice they can give us on our equity holdings, I think that's in all the funds.
Okay. Anything else that we're interested in? Tom, do you have anything that rings a bell?
There's been some additional investments in the last couple months that I just am curious about the rationale for some, just, I don't
Particular stock
have it.
holdings you're talking?
They're using some funds. I don't know whether they're what exactly they are. They have some in the descriptions of them. It sounds like some foreign investments. I'm just curious if these are just kind of temporary things, or if they're trying to do something different than what we've done in the past.
Okay, if you can get me an example or two so that I can
Yeah, I didn't bring the
get to them
reports with me,
specifically.
but-
I know sometimes we see some stuff even in the CDs, and like that discussion we had about BMW Bank last time
Right.
around,
Right.
which is not a German bank, it's
Turns
what was
out,
it, Utah, Nevada.
yeah,
Um,
the
Yeah,
US
it could be
portion of.
something like that, where the description in the reports lead you to a different conclusion than what is really going on.
Yeah, I had some questions about some of the individual stocks as well. One of them that comes to mind is Starbucks. And Starbucks is making a big effort in China. And China's I can't remember the name of their company, but they have a company that's directly competing. And one of them has 4,000 stores, and the other has 4,100 or 4,700. I don't know how big a market that's gonna be for Starbucks if they're expanding into a market where we don't wanna go for some reason. By the time we get around to June 14th, probably a lot of that stuff will have been settled out. But, you know, you watch the news and see some of these things.
Mhm.
China wars. Shanghai runs on Dunkin'.
I'm sorry?
Shanghai runs on Dunkin', that's their competition. Starbucks.
Okay. So if there's anything like that anybody has the next couple of days, over the weekend, what have you, you're leaving Monday, you said, Bill?
Yeah, yep,
But you'll be back by the 14th.
yes,
Okay. Have a good trip.
thank you. I mean, some of those, I wasn't gonna say anything, but some of those charts that they give us in their report that are really like, you can't even read them. I'd rather have, some clear,
Summary?
like additions, subtractions, just simple, like when you get a mutual fund report and it says additions and subtractions.
Yep.
I'd like to just have that spelled out, kind of clearly, instead of charts that you can't even read. They could thin some of that out, because I think it's just filler, just a boilerplate filler.
Yeah. One,
I can't even name some of the what, do you remember some of those charts that they show where it's almost like some fairly obscure,
Well, the shock charts are like that.
yeah, the shock charts, I guess that was the name of them.
Mhm.
I mean, you can't even read them. So, I'd like less shock charts and more, hey, we did this, we did that, and this was our reasoning.
you could probably cut out about half those charts. But I figured they were their normal boilerplate, and that's the way they do it,
Well, it's something to fill a book.
yeah.
Okay, anything else? I will get to them.
You might ask him what the impact of this Terrafor is going on. It's like, do we need to adjust our equity holdings accordingly?
Okay?
Is that you?
Motor or something in there going.
Oh,
It's HVAC, I don't know.
Okay, we received two checks from the MVD, discussed already, so I guess we just deposit those. There's no other action required on our part. Just so you know, we got them. We haven't received anything from the town or the school. We don't get them till later in the year normally anyway.
oh, we had the elections.
But those are
This comes in with the tax revenue.
for fiscal year '20.
Oh, okay.
So the money would normally come to us during that fiscal year. No big rush on it. Next item here is the flower funds. Need a motion to approve ordering and paying for flowers.
I motion we approve ordering and paying for flowers.
I second the motion. I thought Mark Ribbit, isn't it Mark that takes care of that?
Dan
No,
Hawk, isn't
Dan
it?
Hawk does
Oh,
it.
Dan Hawk does, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know he had to be involved, but, okay.
Well, Dan delivers and installs for just the regular, whatever it is, $7 or $8 delivery fee,
Right.
which I think is more than generous.
Yep, saves you going out there. New auditors?
Yeah, we do have new auditors.
We
You know
do.
anything about them, Tom?
The new audit firm is Graham and Graham.
How do you spell Graham?
Within
Graham?
Yeah.
2 A's or 1 A?
Is there any significance of that? Why did we get new auditors or?
We're actually bound by charter to change auditors every 5 years. Just somebody decided that was a prudent thing to do, just to get a new perspective every few years. So that was the reason we actually really liked our prior auditors and was sad to see the 5 years were up. But so we went out to bid for audit services. There were only 2 firms that bid. The bids were similar. Graham and Graham was chosen. They've come in for 1 meeting so far. And I've met the principal of the firm several times at the various conferences that we go to and whatnot. I think it'll be a little different. They're a smaller firm. I'm sure they do things a little bit differently than maybe the last couple of firms we've used, but I expect the experience will be good.
The other one that bid was Melanson.
Correct.
I was never happy with Melanson, so that's good. I will always cherish in my mind that they came up and they had all this stuff they wanted us to do. And they were doing it for other towns too, and they came up and presented at the seminar that Terry Knowles put on. And Terry said, and the guy from DRA said, "You don't have to do any of that. Forget all about it." I thought that was just wonderful. So anyway, so their contract starts June 1st or July 1st?
Yes.
Okay. And we don't have an estimated date, but still sometime in August?
I think we're looking at the third week in August as the week that they will actually be on site doing the bulk of their work. So there'll be the standard questionnaires and whatnot that need to be filled out and returned to them at around that time.
Okay.
Stockley Fund.
Stockley Fund. You ever get anything out of Matt?
No, Matt came back and said that he looked through all of their files and they have no documentation in their files on the Stockley Fund. So, and I had previously talked to the Charitable Trust Unit, and they have nothing in their files. I kind of struck out on trying to look for wills and whatnot. So we've not made any progress there.
Okay. I looked through my stuff, back records and whatnot. I didn't have anything.
It's not a lot of money that's in that fund, but
It's
I
a couple
just,
$1,000.
yeah, but I don't know how we'd ever approve any expenditures out of that fund without really knowing what the intent of the donor
Well, other
was.
than it's aimed at the schools.
We know generally it's aimed at the schools, but that's about it.
And I think for the most part, the other funds of the time, so to speak, were restricted to elementary schools. So I would assume that would be safe.
Mm-hmm.
But as you mentioned, it's not a very big fund. I don't remember personally ever making any expenditures from it.
I don't remember any in the time that I've been involved.
Well, except in the time frames over 15 years ago now, when the schools were just getting 90%, no, getting the income from these funds just as a blank check from all of the funds. They wrote a check for $30,000 and said, here, this is the earnings from all of our funds that we hold on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
And the school took, and doing it that way, there was no accumulation or any significant value. And so the schools just lumped it all together and said, oh, that's surplus, and it goes back to the tax rate. So the students never saw any benefit to it, which we all agreed some time ago was not really the intent of the donors, some of whom specifically said the school budget should not be reduced because of this. This is for additional benefits. So I think that's where it used to get paid out in a small way.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been David Johnson was the chair at the Stockley Fund. Obviously, we haven't done anything with it recently, but I'm thinking documentation must be somewhere. Vault, lockbox. I don't know. Do we have one?
No.
Problem is, it doesn't seem to actually be tied into anyone's death and a will. Based on the information we have about when the fund was created, it was many years after the death of Frederick Stockley and many years before the death of his wife. So I'm thinking, she must have at some point wrote a check with a letter saying,
That's it.
I'm donating these funds in the memory of my late husband for some purpose. I can't find that letter. keep trying.
Yeah, well. Prize speaking contest, haven't heard anything back lately, but they're still,
Darn,
working on it.
I was very hopeful.
Well, they still got a couple of months left in the school year, so they may still do something.
Yeah. How much time? I think the last day of school is June 14th, right? Day of our next meeting.
June 14th, that seems early compared to previous years, but I guess we didn't
And there wasn't a lot of snow days.
have a lot of snow
Yeah.
days this year.
There might be more snow days with Marge not there. She was pretty tough on snow days.
Well, she figured if she could drive up from Andover, the school buses can run around the block.
June 6th, we have trustee training. Did I miss anything?
No,
Trustee training, June 6th. I think you all got
yeah, I did,
the letter. I will not be here June
I
6th.
feel like I just went to that.
yeah. Do we need to go?
Well,
What are we gonna learn that we
Actually,
didn't learn
it
last
wasn't
year?
that long ago, was
When
it? Was
was
it
it?
in
Because-
November?
It doesn't seem like it was that long
At the,
ago.
It wasn't. It was in the
at the
fall.
NHMA.
at the NHMA
Conference?
annual
I think that,
conference or
I
whatever.
think that was November.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
that's right,
think they're
yeah.
trying to get back onto a schedule.
Was that the Municipal Association conference? That was very convenient. Of course, you had a lot of support at that. A lot of interesting booths and everything.
Well, but I think the point of trying to get it into the spring
Yeah,
is you have, whether it's trustees of trust funds, or library trustees, or whatever else, you got new people coming on board from the March elections.
elections, right.
And so
Get the
You know, they're
MS9s
sitting there
and
and-
10s.
April and May saying, what do I do? And so the training in June is a more appropriate time frame.
Yep, one of,
It's
Yep.
not usually a lot of new stuff for us, with the exception of when we transitioned to the online MS9, MS10 reporting.
I would suggest that we forego this year and get back on schedule next year. I don't think 6 or 8 months is
right.
a long time to have many revisions.
Well, if anybody can drop in on it, that would be nice. The auditors do ask us how we keep up with stuff. Of course, now that we have rejoined the NHMA, there's ongoing training of sorts all over the place that we didn't have access to when we weren't members. So that may be something we'll see it again in November, which for us was a good deal.
Right. Besides, you can't go to the June one anyways, and sounds like it's trustee 101, which we don't need at this point.
If it doesn't smell right, don't do it.
Well, I thought they spent an undue amount of time on certain topics that were, for us, very repetitive and didn't really help us do the job. Right to know law was one of them. You know, once you've
Right.
got a feeling for that, then you don't really need to do it every year. And then the emphasis that they put on non-public sessions. You've heard me say it before, in my mind, there's almost no reason the trustees would ever have a non-public session. And if they do have one or want to have one, they ought to talk to their legal counsel first and say, you know, is this really appropriate? And I think they could have said that. That would have killed a 1-hour lecture in about 15 seconds.
The guy was a good
But I'm not in
speaker.
charge of that, so I can't say it.
It was a packed room. Guy was a guy who had a good presentation, I think. But Who needs to go on D-Day anyways, this?
Well, anyway, if you can go, you can go. If you can't. And then the next item is future meetings. June 14th, we're still good with that?
Yep.
Flag Day?
I got that in there.
Ribfest weekend.
Oh, is
Father's
it?
Day weekend. All kinds of stuff.
Wow. I have it
July
down.
meeting, and then August 23rd,
August
you should be pretty much through the audit
20th.
by then.
Okay,
To
that,
be able to sign the reports and
okay.
whatever else we need to do at that time of year.
I'll keep that open, trustees meeting.
What else do we do at that time? We have to renew and approve the investment policy. I don't think there's anything in there we want to change, but we might put it on the June agenda to take a quick look at it, or the August agenda.
Won't take too long.
Because if we're doing MVD and the bank on June, that's going to be a longer meeting. So
Yep.
prepare your schedules accordingly. And is there anything else we need to bring up?
Oh, jeez. Oh, do we have anybody that we could contact just to remind them about what's going on with the Watkins speaking contest? I mean, we should send the message that we're still interested. There was
Okay.
a young teacher, I think, that wanted to take that over, and I just wanna maybe be the liaison to them on the speaking contest.
I've been doing emails back and forth. I don't have the
Okay.
name at the top of my head.
They were hung up on formats, I thought, our categories and formats, something that I had done previously when that had resurrected itself before, if you remember. Probably still have it on my computer. If you can give me the name of that contact, I'll make contact with them.
Okay.
Maybe I should contact the middle school.
Anything else?
I know one way to resurrect the speaking contest. $200 prize. You know, I mean, if only one or two people.
Well, they did follow up on my discussion or question about Boy Scout, Girl Scout merit badges.
Yeah.
So they've been in contact with at least one scout troop.
Oh, good.
And there's some interest there, and I don't know how familiar you are with, I don't know about Girl Scouts, but Boy Scouts have pamphlets, booklets related to each merit badge, and they pretty much take you step by step how to accomplish the various tasks in the merit badge. So I think that's a good curriculum item for them. Beyond that, I don't know what they're doing in detail. For all I know, they're having rehearsals every day.
Oh, will you entertain a motion to adjourn?
I would.
Okay, I move we adjourn.
And all in favor?
Aye.
I guess that means there's no opposition. We are adjourned at 9:05.